Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. I've very much been looking forward to this particular episode because it's about drums. And I have Tom Frier, the owner and CEO of Freer Percussion in Cleveland, Ohio, as my guest tonight. Welcome to the Gritty Hour, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
For some reason, you have an easy first name to remember.
Yeah, why is that?
Yes.
It's a great name. That's why.
And anyone who watches this podcast on a fairly regular basis know that I'm always full disclosure. So I met Tom in beautiful Millbrook, New York, which I think you're a native of, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
But you're currently in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep.
So you're a percussionist. You're mainly a timpanist. Is that the right way to say that?
Timpanist and percussionist. I'm one of the few people that do both. Usually people specialize. You're either a timpani player or you're a percussion player.
Right.
But I went and did both.
And you recently retired from the Cleveland Orchestra.
That's right, 2 years ago.
And you were there for a long time, right?
31 years.
Wow, that's a hop, skip, and a jump. Don't worry about it.
Well, it was my fourth orchestra job. I started in Norrköping, Sweden in 1986.
Yeah.
Stayed there for almost 2 years and freelanced in Stockholm a little bit.
You were the principal percussionist there?
Yep, Norrköping, North Symphony. And then I went to Fort Wayne, Indiana for 2 years and in Birmingham, Alabama for 2 years, and then came to Cleveland after that.
Yeah, the Alabama Symphony and before that, the Fort Wayne Philharmonic.
That's right.
So you have quite the resume there, Tommy boy.
Yeah.
How long you been playing drums, even before you went to school?
Yeah, I've been playing since I was 5 when I was a little kid in Millbrook, listening to the Cousin Brucey show in the basement, and we had a garbage can with a foot pedal and 2 wooden spoons, like kind of cliche, but that's what I did.
I think I may have told you when we discussed what you call the cigarette. What do you call them?
The cigarette Senate.
The cigarette Senate that hangs out in one of the stores in Millbrook. That I was in a band myself for 20 some odd years. You may have heard of us, the Rolling Stones.
Oh man, Charlie! I thought your name was Tom.
Nah, that's all right. No, but we played mostly in Manhattan and the Bronx and Long Island, etc. But nothing as accomplished as your career so far. So, but I have to ask you because I know you just retired from the Cleveland Orchestra a year or two ago, and how long have you had Freer Percussion in Cleveland?
I've been an independent since 2012, and before that, I mean, I started making and selling orchestral stuff, sticks, mallets, accessories, since like 1989 or so, and then I licensed my products to Percussion Source out in Iowa for 5 years, and when that licensing thing expired, I moved on and got an offer from Promark Corporation. This is when it was still owned by Maury Brockstein, family business, and it was really great because they really wanted to have high end orchestral sticks and mallets and stuff. And they rolled out the red carpet and said, we'll take everything in the catalog and anything else new that you design. And it got off to a great start. It was really terrific. But I think 2 years in or 3 years into a 5-year contract, Maury sold the company to D'Addario. And D'Addario brought in Rick Drum. They picked Rick Drum, great name to be working in the drum business. What's the word when you steal somebody from another company?
Pilfer?
They pilfered Rick Drum from Vic Firth. He was very high up at Vic for a long time. And so they grabbed him and said, you're going to go and you're going to run Promark now. But he's running it from Long Island, from the D'Addario headquarters. And it didn't go well. It didn't go well for anybody at Promark. They just emptied the whole plant down in Houston and fired everybody. And it just started to come apart at the seams. I mean, it was just horrible to watch. And I asked if I could get out of the contract a year early. This is, you'll like this. This is what prompted me to ask to get out of the contract. I met Rick Drum and the guys asked me to go over to, I guess it's Farmingdale, and sit and have a meeting. And it was obvious that, you got a lot of products. I think I had like 50 SKUs at that time. And it was great for Promark, no problem. But now the D'Addario owns them. It's like, yeah, why do we need all this? So I had one of those meetings in Farmingdale. And I remember Rick Drum holding one of my pairs of timpani mallets in his hand. And he goes, so what are these for? They're for timpani, they're for this piece by Edward Elgar, the Enigma Variations, where you have to play this long solo soft roll on the timpani, and it's a sound effect, really. It's supposed to sound like a motorboat. And he's like, yeah, so looks like last year, so we sold like 40 pairs of these. So Tom, do you know who Joey Jordison is? I said, yeah, he's a drummer for Slipknot. He's like, yeah, so we just did drumsticks for him, and we put 1 microgram of his blood in the ink on his sticks. And you know how many pairs of those we sold last year, Thomas? No, Rick, I don't want to even guess. He goes, 500,000. Okay, so not really. And the whole meeting was kind of like that. I'm like, okay, why are we even comparing me to Joey Jordison?
It's so, like when a new management comes in. So what do you do here?
Exactly. Yeah. Not gonna be working here anymore. So that was like just a big red flag. And I went back home and thought about it, and I just said, I'm done licensing. I wonder if they'll let me out. If they don't let me out, they don't let me out. I mean, it's their prerogative. But he was very magnanimous, very nice about it. And he's like, sure, no problem. No hard feelings, no harm, no foul. You are free. He was happy to be done with my stuff, And I just decided I'm going to be an independent. At that point, that was August of 12. No, God, that was spring of 2012. And then by August, I was up and running and just totally had no game plan whatsoever. Hired a former student to get it up and running in a little 12 by 12 office out in Mentor, Ohio, like a very far eastern suburb of Cleveland, about almost 45-minute drive. And at this point, we now have, 220 SKUs, I think, something like that.
Different lines of product, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all orchestral snare drum sticks, orchestral timpani mallets, orchestral bass drum mallets, tam beaters, chime mallets, xylophone mallets, glockenspiel mallets, maroon mallets, stick cases, and then this kind of gadget here and there, for various instruments.
Well, I know Remo used you as a what like a sponsorship deal. What do you carry drum heads as well?
No, I just get them from Remo. I only use Remo heads. Mm-hmm. And I got the endorsement, I don't know, 15 years ago. For a long time, because I was working with Evans for about 10 years, which is part of D'Addario. And that was a similar thing when we started, they were using me not just as an artist but a consultant, and they were asking me about, what do you guys want in a timpani head? What can we do to make a better timpani head, better snare drum head, orchestral snare drum heads, blah blah blah. And it got off to a really good start. Things were going well. The timpani heads were good, and snare drum heads were good. But again, there was this very sharp change, and even the Evans part, not just them buying. Probably it was a matter of them buying Promark and being overextended manpower wise and whatever. And the Evans heads just started to really get ugly. And so I parted ways with Evans as well and went to Remo. And at the same time, Remo was really upping their game. And So I've just been a Remo endorser ever since. I don't stock any heads or cymbals or anything in the shop. All I have in the shop is my collection, and then the sticks and mallets stuff that I sell.
Mm.
And
Without getting too deep into the weeds
mm.
for the pedestrian that's listening, uh, what makes a good timpani pair of sticks,
Uh,
as opposed to what separates a good pair from an average pair? Let's put it that way.
an average pair like Vic Firth General timpani mallets, he's had them and sold them forever. Very good mallet for very specific style of playing, like Vic Firth, the way Vic Firth played. And that's a maple stick with we call a parachute cover. It's a ball covering of felt, so there's no seam or anything visible stitching or anything. But for me, what makes a really great timpani mallet is we use bamboo for a lot of mallets. We use some hickory shaft and we use some carbon fiber shafts. And it's very, very important that the diameter of the bamboo is absolutely spot on matched. The weight is spot on matched. And the coverings on the mallets, especially, are very, very tight and very, very evenly done. Whereas Vic's mallets, for example, he sells thousands upon thousands more than I do. Vic sells is see I he what Vic's I sell what Vic spills on the floor in a year. It's like it's about that kind of size comparison. But a great timpani mallet will have a lot of care taken in the details. And Vic's mallets have kind of become very general, very quickly made. I don't really know any professional players that use them anymore, sadly, because he's so far removed from the picture anymore. Most players have gone to smaller mom and pop brands that are putting a lot of attention to the details, especially how the wrapping is done on the end.
Now, does that translate into a better feel for the drummer, or in addition to that, can a discerning ear pick up a different sound on the end product?
Yeah, it's not the mallet design itself, like as a drummer from a 7A to a 5B, you're talking about weight and diameter, and that has a lot of effect on the feel. And you have a lot of that in a timpani mallet too. You have some very skinny shafts, you have some fatter shafts, but the covering is not going to affect the feel as much as it's going to affect the sound. And if a stick, the felt that you put on the end of the mallet is sort of tight, and it's very tight on one and sort of tight on the other in a pair, even though the pair is perfectly weight matched and pitch matched, if that felt covering isn't precisely the same, you will hear it. The average pedestrian will hear it with their back turned. And they'll, when you just try to play an even rhythm with two hands, they will say, well, either you don't have even hands or those sticks are not evenly wrapped.
And the timpanist obviously will know right away.
Yeah, and your colleagues know, and the conductor notices, and he stops and he says, can I have a different stick? I said, they don't even know how to put it to you.
They don't know how to articulate it, but they know something's off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So, do you mind while we're talking, because we're talking about your products and also, you were talking about some of the artists that no longer go with the bigger, producers. Do you mind if I share your screen of your website?
Not at all. Go ahead.
So we can discuss. It's already set up to. These are some of the folks that use your products, correct?
Yeah, the artists.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see it on your end there. Yeah. And some of it seems like virtually all of them are either conductors or percussionists of some sort in orchestras, correct?
Right. No conductors. Well, it's funny you'd mentioned conductors even by accident because I just started making conductors batons.
Mm.
And I make batons for Franz Welser-Merst, our music director here in Cleveland, and I'm making them for Gustavo Jimeno, who's a conductor and music director in Toronto Symphony, and Klaus Mekele, who's a music director in Chicago Symphony and Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. And I'm starting to expand that because there's another niche where there is only a couple of baton makers, believe it or not, in this country. One of them being Richard Horowitz, who was a timpanist in the Metropolitan Opera for 65 seasons, I think.
Wow.
He retired at like 89. No joke. And he made batons for a lot of conductors, for Jimmy Levine in the Met. He made it for Leonard Bernstein and a lot of conductors. Then his son took it over after he passed away, and his son is now pushing 80, and his
Wow.
his son's pulling the plug on
Mm.
making batons. And apparently it's the same thing in Finland. There's the famous maker, and in Europe there's just not a lot of it's an old school thing, and there's not a lot of people doing it. So I'm happy to jump on that. It's not a difficult thing to make, and
I have to ask you, what goes into making a conductor's baton?
they usually want either carbon fiber or a birch shaft, and it's usually it's the tricky part in that it's a very skinny taper, long and skinny taper on that birch shaft, and I have a supplier for the birch shafts and for the carbon shafts, which I can't disclose, but they do really, really good. It's hard to find these people to do this, and it's not something you want to do on your own because it's time consuming and a lot of waste.
Hmm.
Um, and then they want either a cork grip or a wood grip. And actually, everybody I'm working with right now all want a cork grip, but they want a certain shape. And generally, these three conductors I named, for example, they will give me one of their broken batons, and they'll say here's the two pieces, and I love this cork grip, so can you replicate the cork grip and start making my batons? So what I'll do is I'll take that cork grip down a few blocks from my house. As a close friend, there's a CAD designer. He worked at the Cleveland Institute of Art for a long time, and he's just a whiz with that stuff. I'll give him that cork grip, and he will draw it in 3D on CAD. So that I can send that off to my cork supplier, and they will replicate that. And then the big thing for the conductors and their differences in the batons is not just the shape and the length, but the balance point. They want, like Gustavo in Toronto, he wants his balance point about 2 inches in front of the cork grip. Klaus Mekele, for example, he wants his balance point way back, like right in front of the cork grip, and he likes the cork grip very heavy. So I actually put weights inside the cork grip. And then Franz here in Cleveland, his is the most simple. He likes carbon fiber. It's fairly short, and he likes a very small, minimal cork, simple cork grip. So all of those tastes come into play: the balance point, the shape of the handle, shaft
Hmm.
material. The carbon fiber shafts, they're very hard for them to break. The wood sticks are extremely light, but they do break. You just make one wrong swipe as a conductor and doing your grand gesture, bang, oops, broke it.
Mm.
You know.
I guess the grip is important too. You don't want it to fling it at somebody in your orchestra.
That's why most of them go for cork. There's people who like wood, but most of them go for cork because it's just hands get sweaty and they feel like they got a grip on it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
these.
I never knew it was that detailed or that particular for conductors. I'm learning as
Yeah,
we
I'm
go.
learning. I'm learning
Yeah,
now too. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like wow. But these the artist page, most of these guys are I haven't even gotten the conductor batons on the website yet, or any of the conductors that are endorsing this stuff. So what you see on the artist page are all players.
Right. I was going to
orchestras.
ask you actually, because the second one in on the top is Timothy Adams,
Yeah.
University of Georgia. To circle back to what you were saying about the sticks, is that one of your products there that he's using on the sticks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got those. That's Cloyd Duff model number 6 in his hand.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
is there a variety among timpanists of what they prefer as well in terms of like
Yes.
I know in the drummer like a regular stick some people prefer 5A, 5B, 7A
Mhm.
sizes and weights. Do they vary in the timpani world as well?
Yeah. Same thing. Vastly. And diameter, size, weight, material, and size of the head. With drum set, and let's just say drum set, we'll leave out marching, all that. You have a range of stick tip sizes.
Right.
Um, but it's pretty much either, excuse me, a wood or a nylon tip.
Hmm.
But with timpani, there's just a kind of a vast assortment of head coverings and styles and weights. So there's a lot of so with a snare drum stick, you're talking about, material, weight, and diameter and tip, maybe 4 factors, with
Hmm.
a typical drum set stick. With timpani, you're talking about shaft material, shaft
Hmm.
weight, the head material. Is it a felt head, a wood head, or a cork head? And the covering on the head and balance. And it's probably 8 factors instead of 4 in
Okay.
those. It gets to be a lot more going on.
And I see some of these artists on your artist page are using what looks to me like regular drumsticks.
Yep. Snare
Yeah.
drumsticks. Yep.
So are they Tom Freer brand drumsticks?
They are. Yep.
Wow, interesting. And you'll have to bring a pair each so I can check them out when you come back.
You betcha.
Yeah.
I'll bring you a care package.
Yeah, there you go. So you do have a bevy of artists that here's a guy that really loves your business.
That guy, John Parks, man,
Yeah.
he's a really prolific teacher out of
Mhm.
Florida State and a phenomenal player, super skilled in recording technology too.
Yeah.
And he's turns out a lot of good students. And so he was one of my first guys that I trying to break into the high end education market
Hmm.
a little bit. There's because I really don't cater to the education market much at all. And I feel like, I should be getting the guys that are high school getting ready to go to Juilliard or Florida State
Right.
or, Northwestern or Eastman or Curtis, Peabody, even the grad students at Yale.
Right.
Um, I want to appeal to these guys more and connect with them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, artist wise and business wise, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you learn a lot from these artists when they come to you. A lot of them ask for custom work?
Not usually.
Hmm.
Usually it's a matter of I know all of these guys personally. They're already using a lot of the stuff because it's been around for over 30 years.
Right.
And, I'll just go to them and say, why aren't you an artist? It's usually how it happens. I mean, you see in the system that you've been a customer for 10 years, and they're just like, I'd love to be an artist. Okay, done. And
Hmm.
sometimes, I get good input from them. They're like, this mallet, I wish it was just a little more like this, or they'll make suggestions. Nobody has really said, I got a design I want to show you, and
Hmm.
I want to see if you'll make this. Well, most of and the special request stuff is like some guys, um, like Josh Jones there at the top. He likes my hornwood general snare drum sticks, but he likes a certain weight and a certain pitch
Hmm.
that really appeals to him. So I'll go pick through 20 pairs and find him pairs that are, 72 grams and they're pitched a C or above. And he's thrilled, but
Mm.
you just can't get that to happen at any other company. I mean,
Right.
I used to use Vic Generals and Vic's guys at the shop 25 years ago would gladly pick me out 5 pairs that were a certain pitch and a certain weight. And that doesn't really happen anymore. It does if you're a big time drum set artist and you're, making a lot of money for Vic with your model of snare drum, your model of drum set stick.
Mm-hmm.
For the orchestral guys, not so much. There's just hardly anybody that's catering to them anymore at all in any way.
Well,
except me and a couple others.
I was going to say that's good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have this would be mainly your sticks that you have available down on your snare drum page. So you do have a wide variety of woods. Is it mostly hickory, or you have other woods, right?
Yeah, there's hickory and hornwood, and then carbon fiber, which are a really big seller.
Now I see, like, for example, the one I'm looking at here, the medium hornwood traditional grip.
Yep.
Now there's the grip. Explain what that means.
That's good. That's a good.
Only because I know that there's match ways of holding the stick that's called traditional or matched or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
How does it translate into what kind of stick it is?
Well, this is a perfect accidental segue because this was actually a special request from Timothy Adams. And he plays, not a lot of guys, even in orchestras, play traditional grip anymore. Most of us all play matched. But Tim still plays traditional. He still teaches his students traditional grip. And he says, man, T, I love that medium orchestral stick, man. My kids buy them all the time. But, man, for traditional grip, if it was just a half an inch longer, would that be like too much to ask? You think you could do that? I was like, I could do that easy. I mean, the guys that make the sticks for me, no problem. So it's no different from my regular medium orchestral, but it's a half an inch longer because they just feel like for the left hand, having it, hang out in the back of the grip, the way they like to have their balance. Just extra meat on the back end.
Right.
So that was one of the very few times where I got a request from people and they said, could you do it exactly like this? The other example on the snare drum stick page, if you look at I think it's at the bottom, the old guard, the Army, for the Army. Let's see. Scroll up.
Regimental hickory?
Yeah, that one. So This is a great Millbrook story. I've always been a super fan of the Army Old Guard. And these guys are using rope drums. And this guy, Shane Nichols, he's in the Old Guard and plays a solo with these sticks for me on a rope drum. And, if you ever played a real rope drum, it's not like you're playing a DCI snare with a Kevlar head. There's very little rebound. It's pretty much like playing a rudimental solo on your thigh.
Yeah.
And the chops these guys have is just jaw-dropping. It's so old school. You remember, you're old enough to remember Frank Arsenal, and Bill Ludwig Sr. and all these guys, Mitch Markovich, who were just, really, what's his name? Frank Arsenal used to go to percussion conventions and he'd bring a couple of kids from the audience and he'd have them stand, sheets length apart, holding the newspaper, one sheet, and he would demonstrate a double stroke roll, open, closed, open, and just barely, never break the newspaper. The technique involved in doing that, and that technique that they have is infinitely transferable to orchestral playing. It's extremely valuable. Whereas the DCI style playing, which they do in marching band now on the field, is not, unfortunately. They use much tighter heads, so they get tons of rebound, tons of balance.
That's what I always thought a marching band snare drum was always sounds to me like it's wound tight with a lot of action on the rebound.
Yeah, it is. If you ever gotta get behind it, go to someplace and get behind one of those drums for 60 seconds, your jaw will drop. It's like playing on a tabletop.
Yeah.
It's so hard and so tight. And the technique, and a lot of the technique is all based on visuals and volume and power and just downstroking. And it's just unfortunately when I would get students that have done a lot of that, and I have to undo a lot of it. Whereas students have learned to play this way, like the old guard, it's unbelievable because it's like, okay, no, all we got to do is change your grip and just keep doing that. So the old guard stick was another special request. I'm at a convention, I don't know, 10 years ago now, and at least, and I meet a couple of these guys in the bar that are in the old guard drum line. And I start talking to them, and I'm just like, I'm just like a 13-year-old chick at a what's her name, Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
You guys are so cool. Oh man, I watch your videos all the time. Oh my God. I have a rope drum and I love to play Pratt solos. And I start talking to this guy, Mark Riley, who's the head of the snare line. And he and I get to talking, and he asks me where I'm from. And I said, I'm from a small town in Dutchess County, New York. He's like, where? I said, Millbrook. He's like, I'm from Millbrook.
Oh,
like, get out of here. You got to be kidding me.
It's a small town and a small world.
Right. Here he is. He's been in the Army for 20 years and living in Virginia. And went to Millbrook High. He's from Millbrook. And lo and behold, he's like, we don't have our own snare drum stick. All of our sticks are taped, white tape. And everybody's using a different stick to their preference. And he says, I really want the whole snare drum line. And I think when they've got the full line going, there's at least 8 or 10 of just rope drum snares alone.
And he's the head of the line.
He just retired 2 years ago too. And he's like, I really wish we all had a single stick and our stick. I was like, jumped on him. I'll do it. I'll do anything you guys want. I don't care if I don't sell any of them. I'll do it. It's just, for me, it wasn't about how many thousands am I going to sell? How much am I going to make on this? It's just like, I can do this. If I even break even, I'm thrilled. And so he just gave me like 4 different models of sticks that he really liked. And he's like, we're going to Frankenstein these together. I like the butt end of this. I like the middle section of this. I like the taper and the shoulder of this one and the tip of this one. No problem. And they wanted hickory. And they wanted a certain weight and a certain pitch. And it's worked out really well.
Do they use wooden tips or plastic?
They're wooden tips, all solid hickory. Yeah.
Interesting that, you happen to meet somebody in a bar by happenstance. Were you in the Cleveland Orchestra then?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. So he knew you weren't just some guy sitting next to him on the bar.
This was at a PAS, Percussive Arts Society convention.
Oh, okay.
In Indianapolis. So we had our booth there for the company, and those guys were doing clinic or something and doing a couple of presentations, and they had their own booth too, the old guard. And those guys are walking around in their uniforms, and I'm just like shaking their hands, like, I love you. You guys are the greatest thing ever. Oh my God.
Well, they do a fancy syncopated choreographed thing, which is pretty cool to watch. So I know what you're talking about, those videos. Yeah.
I would love to get the Millbrook Arts Group to bring those guys to Millbrook and just march around on the lawn in front of the high school, in front of the shed,
Yeah.
It would be so entertaining. It's so cool.
I don't know if that high school there has a marching band. I know they have an orchestra of some sort there.
I would guess Millbrook High School still has a marching band.
Maybe. I don't think so, though.
Really? You go to ever go to a football game, you'll find out real quick.
It's funny, we're recording on the 10th of July, even though it's not coming out on the 10th of July, but 2 days from now is the Fireman's Parade,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the biggest fireman parades in New York State. And last few years, there's been a nice, cool band, mostly percussion with a couple of fifes, playing mostly Civil War era music as they come down.
Right.
And I can never remember the name of them.
There's a bunch of them in the area. It's pretty prolific and legendary in the area that these fife and drum corps have been around for a couple hundred years. And I remember that, gosh, 25, 30 years ago, I was in Millbrook, and I think it was for the 4th of July, and there was a bunch of those regimental guys coming down the street with rope drums and rope bass drums.
It was probably the Fireman's Parade. It's always every July, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it this Saturday,
Right on.
I wanted to talk, because I know this is one of my favorite subjects, talking about drums, so the time is going by very quickly, but I wanted to talk about something that you personally designed. Hope I'm showing the right page. I don't know if you can see this page.
Yeah.
This is from Promark. It's called the Promark Tom Frier Percussion Castanet Adapter. I know they don't make it anymore, or it's out of line, but you got to give me the background of this bad boy.
Yeah, it's on my website. If you look under accessories.
Okay.
So this is from Guitar Center. Yeah, and Guitar Center says no longer available, I'm sure.
It says sold out. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. If you find it on my site, you'll see it installed on some castanets.
Okay.
There you go. And should be scroll down a little bit. Scroll down.
Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling.
Well, yeah, you make a hell of a lot of products,
Yeah, I know. There you are, right there, right there.
Where am I?
Bottom row.
This guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
See him? Yep.
Yep.
There you go. So that pair of these castanets.
It's actually a better picture of it.
Yeah, these castanets are made by former percussionist in Boston Symphony, Frank Epstein, and everybody has these. Everybody uses these. There's pretty much castanets made by Epstein, and Black Swamp Percussion also makes really good castanets. Black Swamp has their own tension adjustment system, which works really well, but it's way more mechanical, and it's inside the shaft and blah blah blah. But with Epstein, without my adapter, Epstein castanets come the way the two castanets are held, on the stick, is with cloth elastic tied off in a knot. So they're on, and they have suspension and spring to them, but they're absolutely non-adjustable. So if you want to do something really loud or really, really soft, it's really, really hard, because they have one tension and that's it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I love my Epstein castanets, and I just thought, why the hell can't I figure out some way to adjust the tension on these things? So I just started messing with some screws and some springs. I think the original springs I pulled out of a ballpoint pen. And got a couple screws from the hardware store, a couple of thumb nuts from the hardware store, and started messing around with it.
Well, how do you adjust the tension on that? With a simple screwdriver?
No, that knurled thumb screw on the thumb nut on the top that you see.
Oh, okay.
Under the slot head, that brass knurled nut. That is what you just turn that to adjust your tension, and you get a wide range of tension from very tight, very springy to almost nothing.
Loose,
and so, if you want to play really soft, you just loosen both of them, and you can play super soft redoble rolls and very delicate, very soft, no problem. But then if you want to play really, really loud, you could just crank down on those nuts compress the springs more, and you're good to go.
So the inspiration for you coming up with this was just you saw a need and decided to fill it, or was it a personal reason?
Absolute, you're exactly right. Absolute necessity.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's a cool idea.
yeah. Works.
Yeah. Do you sell a lot of these guys?
No, I mean
No.
maybe 50 pairs a year.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those little esoteric items, but it's fine. I have lots of those.
Do you mind if I go into the auxiliary section?
Anything you want.
I'm just curious now. That's a good shot of the timpani sticks. Um, oh, so these are the mallets that you have.
Chime malice. Yeah.
Yeah. So production wise, is it all done in your facility, or do you farm out a lot, or you just source from other sources?
Yes.
All of the above.
Well, but we don't do a lot of we don't have lathes, CNC machines in my office. My office is like 7,000 square feet of mallets and stuff that's pretty much ready to bag and tag and sell.
Mm-hmm.
What we do in the office is I have 3 employees there, and I have 14. I have 16 full-time employees. 14 of them are Amish, and they all work at home.
Wow.
And they're down in Middlefield, Ohio, like 45 minutes from here.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a lot of work for me, and they produce everything. They put the felt wraps on the end of the timpani mallets, and they do all the yarn wrapping and sewing. But generally, we have everything farmed out. And then what we do in the shop is those employees in the shop, they're weighing things to make sure anything that comes in a pair is exactly spot on to the gram. And they check pitch on snare drum sticks and timpani mallets and make sure that things are correctly pitch matched, and bag and tag everything and fill the orders. They do some in the office. We do some gluing of balls on the end of mallets, and some some mechanical stuff, but not a lot. Most of it we farm out and do
Well, I'm
all
sure.
the final finishing.
Obviously, a testament to your success, you do a lot of quality control as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons.
So
Yeah.
you get to play it all to see if it works.
Yeah, I do. I personally finish all the timpani mallets myself. I check every single pair and look at the sewing, look at the felt covering,
Mm-hmm.
primp them, prettify them, voice them, trim them, go over to the timpani and test them, and
Mm-hmm.
make any adjustments that I have to do. And it's very time consuming, but I'm one of the only manufacturers that does this.
Absolutely. I'm looking at these yarn wound suspended cymbal mallets.
Yeah.
Besides the obvious soft sound you would get out of it, what would be the benefit of a yarn wound mallet?
It's actually a replica of a 1930s Deegan marimba mallet, and which is a pretty substantial, heavy hard rubber core, and all wool, gray wool yarn. And we always use these in the orchestra on the suspended cymbals, and they sound great. They just speak really fast. They roll really nice. And I asked the guy who's the cymbal player in the orchestra, Joe Adato, I said, "Can I borrow those? Check them out." And I looked at them and I measured them and I looked at the model number. And then I just started beating the bushes on eBay, and I found some vintage ones. And then I tore them apart, cut the yarn off, and had it replicated,
See how it ticked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just send it off. You can figure out how many revolutions of wraps there are on the yarn and give it to my Amish gal.
I wonder why if it has such a sweet sound on the cymbal, I wonder why it was discontinued back in the 30s.
Deegan went under in the 80s, and they stopped making all that stuff. Other mallet makers were doing very similar things. And I've been lucky to, just like you said, you wonder, why did they stop making that? And there's no explanation for it, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to start making it. That's the
Be,
kind of vibe.
because a discerning ear will pick up the difference, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, aside from sticks, do you make anything for the standard trap drum set?
No, not really. The mufflers, my drum mufflers, are used by drum set guys now,
Hmm.
and they like those for toms, throwing those all around the kit. And I'm working on an orchestral drum set. And we do have to play drum set in the orchestra some. And I'm working on a drum set stick to use in the orchestra. And then I've got a jazz guy who's there in Carmel, and he really wants a signature stick. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to go forward and do that with him, and just kind of dip my toe into that swimming pool, which is a very crowded swimming pool.
Yes,
You
but
know,
you have a knack for finding niches, though.
yeah, I hope.
That's, yeah, I think, self-evident here by looking at your site.
Thanks.
So, so what's the future for this? You just want to keep growing, keep making. Do you mind if I escape your page for a second?
Escape away.
What do you see for the future? More niches? You just come across these things by happenstance and just pursue them. It seems to me.
Yeah, I have a bunch of new models coming out for November for the convention. Um, some new carbon fiber Timpani mallets and new triangle beaters, a couple of new bass drum mallets, one new model of orchestra snare stick, and um, gosh, what else? I think that's about it for now. I mean, there's at least 14 new things coming,
Right.
and then as far as growth goes, I want to keep trying to push into the high end high school market and college market,
Hmm.
because a lot of college students are already buying stuff. So I figured what I did was last 2 years I came out with this duo bag, which is a soft bag, and it comes, I like to say, curated with 5 or 6 pairs of mallets
Mm.
already. And so if you're going to be a freshman and you don't have any of my stuff, this is like a great place to start. Because if you look online, like a lot of colleges say freshman year you have to buy these books, you need to buy these sticks by these brands, and this stick bag, and this stuff. A lot of it is garbage. I
Mm.
mean, really, really poor quality. And not just the stick bags, but the mallets too. It's just like so generic, and it's not cheap. I was really gobsmacked. Like, I think I looked at like 10 universities and what they require students, incoming students, to have with them when they arrive. And I was kind of giggling until I started looking around online and looking at the prices, and I thought, that's just cruel, because those sticks are crap. That mallet bag is crap, and it's like $300 worth of stuff.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I thought, if I can make a soft bag that's really smartly designed as a backpack, or an over-the-shoulder bag, but really designed for what a student's really going to need it for, with a lot of room to grow. It comes with 5 pairs of mount. They're not. I don't have any B models, so it's not like I'm going to give them my drags to the kids. It's all the exact same top of the line stuff that the professionals get, and I was able to do it at a pretty reasonable price. So that's done really, really well. And I
Mm.
figured, okay, there are these people out there that instead of buying $300 worth of junk, they'll buy $350 worth of something really good. They'll keep for the rest of their life, and they can expand on. So I want to do more of that. I would
Mm.
like to expand into the Asian market a lot more as well.
Hmm. And you have roots in Europe because you were in the Swedish orchestra. I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name of that orchestra.
Norrköping,
That's what I
Norrköping
that's what I
Symphony.
said. The acoustics in here are terrible.
You nailed it.
Yeah. Uh, maybe over there too. No.
I've already got distributors in Sweden, Norway. Um, I think 18 international distributors, and I think there's a little more expansion I can do in the European market, but the European market's is pretty crowded. There's
Mm,
plenty of specialty stuff over
mm,
there.
yeah.
German manufacturers make really good timpani mallets, really good percussion mallets. That's a I've got a lot more competition there. But then China and Asia in general, um, there's a big demand for it. There's
Mm.
nobody making anything really high end, and they want really high end. So I'm making good connections and making headway there to expand into that a bit.
The whole Pacific Rim there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I first of all, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I know you're a busy fella with all of these SKUs you're talking about. Um, but before I let you go, I have to ask: when you were 5, 10 years old, and you were banging on your mother's kitchen table, what drummer did you look up to, if
Ringo.
any?
Ringo.
Everybody looked up to Ringo. Yeah.
Unquestionable. I was playing along with cousin Brucey and loved the Beatles stuff, and also, in Millbrook, New York, Timothy Leary came there, and everybody knows about that. But my dad became very close friends with Tim Leary,
Ah,
and so he kind of quickly went from being a fiercely devout Catholic father of six. I was the youngest of six, and
I too am
to
the youngest of 6.
see that's why,
Yeah.
and the same name. See, and that's he quickly did a 180 and started wearing a dashiki and a peace medallion and hanging out with Tim, and the whole family were hanging out with Tim a lot of weekends, because
Yeah.
he lived right down the road. And then my dad was bringing home Beatles records,
Yeah.
so I remember hearing those records at night, and I was just a little kid, and I just absolutely mesmerized. My brother said, "Hey, my mom was the organist at St. Joe's Church there, and the choir director at the high school and at Dutchess School." My brothers told my mom, he said, "You need to come check this out. He's keeping time with cousin Brucey, Mom. You got to see this." So then when I was 6, they bought me a snare drum, and then they got me kind of a drum set when I was 7. It was a great 18-inch Ludwig bass drum, sky blue pearl,
Wow.
um, a, a virgin drum, no tom mount, and then I had a red sparkle Whitehall snare and 2 red sparkle Whitehall toms and a Peisty cymbal and a crap hi hat and a crap bass drum pedal. And the stands and the pedals were just falling apart all the time. I got really good with duct tape at a young age.
What was your ride cymbal if you had one?
It was one of those Peisty 2002,
Okay.
made by Ludwig. Just one.
Okay.
So I had one of those, and matching hi-hats.
Yeah. One of the things that people don't realize when Leary was here in Millbrook, you had a lot of artists coming up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you might have ran into Levon Helm. You didn't know it.
I wouldn't even have known it. I was
Yeah.
7, but I do remember Ram Dass and Rosemary, Leary, and Gene McCready, and they were all super cool, man. Just nice, and we'd play softball on the front lawn,
Hmm.
and it was good times. But it was an incredible, it's all weird how it all turned out with my parents and all that, but no regrets, because it got me on this musical path somehow, and
Now, when
I'm
you
up
were
here.
that age, or even maybe a little older, was it what was your music, your go-to musical genre? Was it orchestral music, or
No, it was
was it?
always rock. It was always just basic pop rock. Um, what we had around the house is what I liked. We had the Woodstock sound. My dad went to Woodstock. We had the Woodstock soundtrack. We had Cat Stevens. We had
Cat
Iron.
Stevens always had phenomenal drummers on his albums.
Yeah, yeah, it's
From
great.
T for the Tillerman straight through,
Yeah,
like Catch Bullet 4, the drumming on Catch Bullet 4. You just listen to it for the drumming.
yeah.
It's phenomenal.
And I was listening to all that stuff, and not even from the mindset of a drum jock, but just like I want to try and play along with that. I don't think I can. And the Woodstock soundtrack, trying to play along to 10 years after, that was like lightning speed,
Oh,
to me for, I can't keep up with this. And
yeah.
then we had all Jethro Tull and the
Dino
Beatles.
Danelli. Dino Danelli
Yeah,
was one of
yeah,
my favorite drummers growing up from the Rascals.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And the Raspberries,
the
and
Raspberries. Yeah.
Beatles, of course, the Stones. Um,
On
I
Cat
remember,
Stevens' album, I think it's Foreigner. You know the album Foreigner?
yeah,
There's a song called The Hurt. If you have time, I might have told you this in person when you were last in Millbrook. Check out The Hurt and this and Bernard Purdy on the drums on that song.
I remember you talking about that on the scoop.
Yeah.
I gotta check that. I have to check
It's
that out.
just the way he plays that particular song. I think that's the only track he's on that album, but
I've got it all in my iTunes. I can go listen to it
you
tomorrow.
gotta, yeah.
Yeah. That was a
So,
lot of good stuff to be influenced by in the
yeah,
day.
well, we could talk till 3 in the morning about that kind of music, but I have to ask you before you go, how did you swing from wanting to be Ringo Starr to ending up in the Cleveland Philharmonic?
Cleveland Orchestra, when it
Yeah.
was really, really quick.
Now, I know you played on a lot of their albums too, did you not?
Oh yeah, we recorded from 1991 until I retired. I think at least 50 discs or something.
Wow. Yeah.
In the 90s, we were recording almost every weekend. A lot for Decca, Deutsche Grammophon, and all these companies and Telarc. But as soon as everything went the route of streaming, all the CD recording went, and it all goes to live recordings and live DVDs and stuff. But I remember when we moved from Millbrook, my mom got remarried. The guy she remarried was an English professor at Western Carolina University. So we're talking mountains of North Carolina, the far west. So we go down there from Millbrook, and I hate it. I didn't want to leave at all, and none of us really did, but we had no choice. And so we go down to North Carolina, and I'm just playing drum set. That's all I care about. I had a pretty decent drum set up at that point, and I started playing in. One of my buddies got me to play in the high school band, and I could kind of read music, but then I started taking lessons with the guy at the university, at Western Carolina University, Jim Atwood. And Jim Atwood studied in Cleveland. So, I started doing about a year's worth of lessons with him and getting a lot better at reading. Now I can play xylophone and glockenspiel and timpani, and I really like timpani, And so he gives me cassette recordings of the Cleveland Orchestra, and the timpanist here, Cloyd Duff, whose timpani mallets I now make, and I studied with him.
He's a very famous timpanist, isn't he?
Famous timpanist,
Yeah.
and
I know I say it wrong. Sorry.
it's all right. He at my teacher was giving me these cassettes, and it was really smartly done because it was like orchestral snippets with the really big timpani licks in them. Like pretty much all the audition repertoire. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then my mom realized that I was liking this. So she's pulling out her New York Philharmonic recordings because we're New Yorkers. And she's specifically, she's giving me Bernstein, New York Philharmonic, Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, recorded live in Moscow.
Wow.
And it's a great timpani part. Saul Goodman sounds phenomenal. And I am like headphones on after school, sitting in front of the stereo, just going nuts on the Shostakovich symphonies and the Cleveland Orchestra. And I go upstairs and I tear up my drum set. And I take the 4 tom-toms and I set them up flat, like 4 timpani. And I start practicing all my timpani etudes. I don't ever want to play drum set again. And that's it. And I was just like, okay, no, I'm 16. I got to start thinking about where am I going to go to college? I'm going to go to Cleveland. I'm going to go study with that guy. And I was just like, one track mind. I got into the Asheville Symphony. I think I was principal percussionist when I was 16, and then principal timpanist when I was 17. And then I quit senior year in high school so I could graduate early, come to school in Cleveland.
That's interesting. So the light bulb went on after you heard that Moscow record.
That was a big big 180 there. And then when I got to Cleveland Institute of Music to study orchestra playing, me and a couple of buddies, Tim Adams, who you pointed out on the artist page, and Andy Kubashevsky. Andy, if you ever watched the show Storage Wars, look at who does the music for Storage Wars. Andy Kubashevsky. He lives in LA. He's retired now. And so Tim and Andy and I formed a band as a gag, for a Valentine's Day party at the Institute of Music. And what did we played, like orchestral maneuvers in the dark, and maybe a Police tune. We did like 3 or 4 covers, and we made up like 4 or 5 songs where we do really long drum jams.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, this was really fun, and the crowd went nuts. And a couple of people come up and said, "Hey, we want you to play in our club." We're like, holy shit, I think we're really a band, Now I need a drum set,
Yeah, going back to the trap drums. Yep, there you go.
That's when that got me into collecting too, is I found my first Ringo kit locally there.
Sweet.
Black Oyster Pearl Ludwig.
And it says, does it say the Beatles on the head?
I went and got a custom head.
Okay, I got you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're an interesting man, Tom, and it's always great to talk to you, even in person or on Zoom.
Right
but
on.
I wish you continued success with Tom Freer Percussion.
Thanks.
And I have to ask you before you go one last question, because I know you must have played this. What's it like to play the 1812 Overture?
1812 is great. It's great to play the snare drum part, but I've also played the chime part, which is great because the chime is just basically improvised. It's supposed to sound like crazy ringing church bells, so you just stay in the key of E flat and you just kind of just go nuts on the chimes. And it's
but they never let you shoot the cannon, did they?
No, we never even would do the cannon part on bass drum. We would always pay for real cannons. Real cannons. And that's as long as they're far away, because it is the concussion, everything, you can feel it even when they're far enough away.
You could blow the wigs off on it with well, the timpani could come in handy if the cannon doesn't show up, though.
I played the timpani part many, many times. That's probably, for me, the snare drum part of the timpani part is the most fun.
Yeah. I always wanted to play that friggin' song.
Oh yeah,
that's called the kitchen sink song, right? Everything's on that.
And it's the ultimate 4th of July too.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you. As I said in the beginning of this, I could talk to you for 6 hours about drums, but
anytime.
And we'd like to have you back. Maybe you'll come in person when you come to my new podcast room here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I'll be there. I'll see you mid-August.
Oh, you will? Okay. Well, definitely you got to tell me what the hell it's called again. The Cigarette Senate?
The Cigarette Senate.
Yeah, we'll see you there at least,
Right on.
All right, Tom. Thank you again, and have a great evening over there in Cleveland.
You too. Thanks, Tom.
All right.